Hey everybody, it's Christopher Ayers. Thought we'd get the new year started out right with a how to install video. We'll kind of compile a little bit of a review into this too. What we'll be installing today is Mountune's beautifully packaged short throw shift kit. This reduces the shift by 25%. It comes with everything you need to get it installed. That's all we're going to have to do is disassemble a few pieces under the hood, nothing big, to get to the stock shift arm in order to replace it with this brand new shiny Mountune if time. So we'll get started. Okay guys, the first thing I wanted to do in this video was show you the throw of the stock shift arm. So I'm going to go first through 6 on this, and then we'll do it again once we get the Mountune unit installed. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. As you can see, that's a pretty far throw. Me personally, I prefer the height of this shifter, which is why I didn't go with a shorter shifter. I went with one that would have the throw be less, so it'd be less of a reach for me. If I went lower on the shifter, it would actually be more of a reach for me if I did this. So let's get started on the install under the hood, guys. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this sensor right here and pull this away from the airbox. This sensor, you simply just push in the tab in the back right here and pull it straight out like that. We'll actually take this sensor and take the rosebud out also, which I'm just going to manually pull out right now. Next, we're going to loosen this elbow right here to the intake. Alright, now that we've got this worm gear loosened, go ahead and break it free. Make sure the intake is able to come off there. And as you can see, there's flux in there, so we'll be able to pull that off right away. Next thing we're going to move to is the actual ram air intake on the Focus RS here. Which is just basically pulling these tabs off here and getting everything disconnected with these hoses. Now our next step is going to be to loosen the other worm gear on the intake pipe here for easy access to getting the airbox out. You can pull the full intake airbox out without taking it apart, but it becomes much more of a difficult task with everything connected to it and trying to fish everything around. So we'll just do it the easy way. Putting the intake in, we do not need to take these 7mm bolts out of the top of the box. They self-secure into the top lid here, so after we get them loosened, we can just simply pull the lid off and these retain on here. Also, it's worth mentioning, some of you guys in the southern states might not have to worry about this, but if you're in Michigan where it gets cold, it's about 20 degrees right now outside, just happen to have a little bit of sun, be very careful with plastic parts like these because they are very fragile and they will break. Alright guys, now that we've taken the elbow off here, make sure there's no connections onto the airbox itself. Make sure the airbox is dislodged from its ram air. We can pull this up. It's going to have 3 rubber grommets, much like the engine cover. That should give us our quick, easy access right to the shifter. Now I'm just using your run-of-the-mill basic trim tool here. So all you have to do is basically get it underneath the pivot and for a couple of tries come out on you. You can go ahead and push that out of the way a little bit if you need to. Now we're going to go ahead and get the retaining pin out of the shifter using Mountune's supplied drift pin. Now after you've taken the top of the shifter off of the ball here, the next thing you're going to want to use is a supplied drift pin. And you'll find a hole right in the front where you're going to want to take that and make sure you find a brass hammer, shortest handle possible, because there's not a lot of room to swing in here, so you want as much leverage as you can. And this coiled steel pin that's holding this on is quite difficult to get out. Might also help with a little bit of penetrating oil. So we're going to go ahead and start hitting on this to pop it out. Now after about 15, maybe 20 minutes of vigorous hitting, we finally get the hardened coiled roll pin out. Now if you guys can take a look at this, I don't know if you can see right in the center there. I'm trying to focus in on it for you. This is actually not a pin. However, it is a piece of rolled steel in the shape of a pin. So think of it as being a rolled spring, basically. And once you pull that out, you're then going to be able to remove your shifter assembly here. And now we can insert the new Mountune unit. Now we're going to take our Mountune unit with the ball stud on the left-hand side. If you're working on a vehicle, you want your left hand to be right here. Insert it over the stock plate, and it is going to be a little bit of resistance as it's powder coated as we try and slide it over here. Now once we set the new shift arm on here, we're going to want to make sure that we set it in the right position. We're going to use Mountune supply drift pin right here. Stick it into the side. As you can see, it's running into something. So we're going to have to kind of move it around a little bit, pulling the shifter up, pushing it down until we can get this drift pin to slide all the way through. And that'll help us guide the spring rolled pin back in. Now as you guys can see, I found that location where the drift pin slides easily through it. I'm going to wiggle it a little bit, make sure the hole is wide open, and then push it forward because we're going to use this as a guide for setting the drift pin back in. So I'm going to push it forward just to hold basically the assembly together. Meanwhile, I'm going to take our rolled pin here, which maybe you can actually see it a little bit better on this camera. Nope. I'm going to take our rolled pin assembly here, and I'm going to start it from the front right here. And while keeping the drift pin in, I'm going to use the same hammer to beat this back in. Now once you guys start feeling the drift pin getting pushed back as you're hitting the pin back in, then you know you're set in the right position. And you're just going to want to keep going. And again, I do suggest using a brass hammer for this because a regular hammer is not only going to destroy the product and make it, you know, chip and whatnot, but could be hard enough to damage other parts of the vehicle. And after we've reconnected the shift lever back on, we're going to run it through the gears just to make sure everything is working good and there's no interference being had, which there's not. We can now move to start putting everything back together. All right, we've got the airbox snapped back into its 3 retaining points with the rubber grommets. One thing not to forget is to reconnect your ductwork here. And make sure you plug your electronics back in. And in my case, the rosebud clip that I pulled back out. We'll start putting the intake back together here at the elbow. Hey everyone, just for reference, when I was talking about those cold parts in Michigan and plastic. Yep, the engine cover. It happens though. Hopefully we get something nice with this short throw out of it. As you can see, the intake's hooked back on. Everything's nice and secure. Plugs everything back in. The only thing we have to do is put the broken engine cover back on here. And we'll be good to go. Now as you guys can see, this is from the exact same angle as before we did it. The shifter size itself remained the same, as you can tell. But the throw on it is, oh my god, ridiculously noticeable. Here's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Now I don't know if you remember, but second would come back pretty much to about right here in the original second. First would probably work its way about right up into here. So we cut this at least, well, Mountune says 25% off of the original amount. So that's, I'm pretty satisfied with the feel of this. Also having the solid shifter bushings in there makes this much more pleasurable, as I know that the shifter is very, very solid feeling. Well guys, I hope you liked the install. I hope that it showed you everything you need to do to install one for yourself if you want to in the future, or decide if you want one at all. You can obviously tell by the shifter itself that it reduced the throw, not just the company claiming. I do have to say that the part was 100% not only pleasable to the eye, but also to the vehicle. Driving it has been excellent. I would give this job about a 1 hour, only because you're spending about 20 minutes of that trying to hit that roll pin out. That's the pin that holds the shift arm into place. But other than that, nothing really too difficult on this job. So if you guys have any questions, any comments, go ahead and leave them down below. If you like my video, definitely leave a like. If you don't, you know the other option, and subscribe if you want more content like this. Thank you guys. Have a great day.